Okay.
In this video, we're going to clean up the relationship between the layout and the top. And then what we'll do is we'll create the shaft. Can you go down and click on Stirling Image 2? This is what we're going to be building. Right now we have the brackets and we have the wheel. We've created a top level. You want to click on that. And we've created a layout. Can you click on that? And they don't look the same. This is one of the issues that we're going to try and clean up. We are designing in the top level assembly because we want to design in the assembly, but you have to create your geometry in the layout. And the closer you can keep them together, we believe, the better. So let's just do some housekeeping. Can you take that image and drag it into the components folder? So typically we have a folder where we just accumulate a bunch of information. We have basically 2 engines in there right now, but when we start downloading components off the internet, we'll start putting them inside of the components folder. And most people this day and age, they don't really manage the parts. They're managing assemblies. We only have one assembly at this point. We only have one part studio at this point. So as this grows, we'll introduce more folders so that we can manage the information in this document. This document right now is the top level for our project. As that grows, right, you can have multiple documents making up your project. So the first thing that I would like to try and do is to go back to the top level assembly. And let's just delete all of the components in there. So you can window select them or just pick them off the tree, pick that, hold the shift key down, pick that, hit the delete key on your keyboard. Okay, now go back in and insert layout. No, just go click, no, okay, go back to, yeah, no. Go back to the assembly, insert, and pick that. That brings in the entire assembly. Click on OK. There you go. All right. Now to make sure that we are the same as the layout, double click wheel in your feature manager. And go ahead and go down and hide wheel, bracket, and bracket mirror. Okay. Reason why wheel is not showing up is because it's designated our primary instance, which I'm not a fan of. I would rather see all of them. So anyway, go ahead, turn on bracket and bracket mirror. And that means that our assembly is in cahoots with the layout. Go back, yeah, you can go back to the top assembly. It's kind of hard to tell which one you're in. So the effort today will be to clean up layout. So let's go ahead and work on layout. And what we want to do is we want to clean this up. So let's go into bracket, the folder called bracket. And I want to turn off mirror. So roll the bar above mirror. Or yeah, mirror, bracket mirror. So this is the bracket. Let's go ahead and turn wheel on. And I believe if we look at the right view, go ahead and click on right view. So the wheel is bisected by a plane. In other words, the origin is in the center of the wheel. And I kind of want to keep that fact moving forward. I also know that the bracket is the angle moves to the inside. So what I'm going to do is, after we now have the bracket, but let's go ahead and let's translate the bracket. So up in the command, we need to find translate or transform, excuse me. And just go ahead and click transform. And transform wants to know where you want to move, so click the bracket. No, that's the folder. Yeah. And there's multiple ways of doing it. Since we know what we're going to translate it, let's see where it says translate by line. We want to translate by distance. And well, we don't know what the distance is or the direction. So let's go translate by X, Y, and Z. So translate by X, Y, Z. And in this case, if I look up in the upper right-hand corner, I'll see that we need to translate in Y. So we want to translate minus 50. And say, okay. And why didn't that translate? Double click it. Have any ideas why that won't transform? Translate?
It's having an issue with the sheet metal. But
No, it should be about it. Let's roll the screen a little bit. Rotate the screen. Rotate, hold the mouse. There you go. Why won't this thing translate?
are there any restraints?
No, shouldn't be. Let's go ahead and change translate by XYZ to, I don't know, anything else. Let's go ahead and, yeah, so go ahead and use your drag handles. Take the arrow and just drag it and see if we can force this thing to move. Okay, let it go.
No.
And yeah, it's not moving, is it? Let's click on the words translate by XYZ. Let's pick a different transformation technique. Let's go by distance. And you need to do a direction. Let's turn our planes on. And let's pick the up. I rotate it so I can read the words on the planes. Pick the front plane. And say, why won't it translate these planes? Let's go to no, leave that. There's something that's causing it not to transform. Let's right mouse click on extrude 3 and roll to there. And let's go up to the sheet metal icons No, up in the command tree. And I believe somewhere in there it says stop sheet metal. So I think it's the one all the way to the right. Finish. Pick the sheet metal part. I think it might be bracket, but and say okay. Drag the feature bar to the bottom. Okay, so you cannot translate sheet metal parts. You have
How's the
to
flare?
end sheet metal parts. That's nice to know. All right, so the other thing that we should probably do is scroll your bar down so we see the bottom of the features. And roll above the bracket mirror. And the nice thing of it is that since we mirrored it, right, all you got to do is it'll mirror it and put it in the right location over on the other side. So go ahead, roll the bar down and hit the P key. Okay. One other thing that I don't particularly care about the sheet metal part is let's roll the bar to just extrude 3. Whenever you're working with sheet metal, I want to the L bracket, that corner, I want to put a radius or yeah, down, not that edge. Go to your ISO. I don't know how to tell you which edge. It's the one that's going to scratch you. So zoom in on the bottom part of that, zoom in. And it's a vertical edge that's sitting out there. It's the corner, that edge. Pick it. And I want to put a radius on that. So go up to your radius tool.
Fill it or
Yep. And let's go 3. And there's one other edge that I want you to apply that to. That one, yeah. And let's change that to 2 because I don't want this to be significant. Typically, this is handled by a note. Actually, this is a little bit, this is called break all edges. This is a standard note. Hey, anybody making this part, if you leave that a sharp edge, which it will be, if you tool this out and stamp it, that's going to be like a razor blade, those edges. And then you're going to start working with this and you're going to cut your hands because they did not break edges. We're actually calling out a feature. You can say okay to this and then drag the bar all the way down to the bottom. But when you're designing parts, you got to understand that you can hurt people if you don't take some precautions. So that's the only thing that caught my eye. We also need like mounting holes and all of this detail to get this stuff put together. We'll come back to that later. Go ahead, collapse that folder and oh, look what happened to part 3. So by ending the bracket, that part 3 lost its reference, therefore lost its name, but was recreated in the evolution of bracketry. And it gave it a new part. So how can I say this? The Onshape lost the reference to the old bracket because we ended the sheet metal and it created a new part. That new part is called part 3. What went away is bracket mirror, the name. So let's go ahead and rename part 3 bracket mirror. For the most part, Onshape is not going to lose the references. In fact, that is their job, is to keep the references going. They shouldn't be redefining things, but it will happen. And you just kind of need to keep mind of what's going on. And you just need to reattach everything to the new reference body. Let's go over to top, the assembly. What happened? Why is that red, Carson?
So it lost connection to the parent.
Yep. And it's gone. So we can just get rid of that. All right. How do we put the bracket into this?
Insert.
Yep. Insert and pick that and then say okay. All right. Now we have nothing that's fixed. We don't really have a good definition of fixed, but I would say if we're going to define something that's called fixed, bracket is now our stationary component. So let's fix that. And then the other bracket mirror, I'm not going to fix it. I typically don't like doing that. I would rather group it. So if you go along your toolbar, one of them's group, not to the right, the left. That one. Click on that. You're going to use group a lot, and I want to group bracket and mirror bracket. Okay. Typically in an assembly, you're going to find out that I'm driving these locations in the part studio, and then I'm actually moving that into the top level assembly. So where's the control for the position of these equipment? It's in the actual part studio. I'm not 100% sure that's the best manifesto to do this. I do like keeping the part studio and the top level assembly somewhat the same. All right. The other thing that I'd like to do at this point in time is let's go ahead and move the wheel. So grab onto the wheel and just put them somewhere. Okay. And let's turn off the origin for the assembly. And let's just go over some basic 101s for an assembly inside of Onshape. None of this will make any sense, but we might as well start putting the rules out. Eventually, weird things are going to happen, and we'll go back to the rules. Rule number one, every assembly should have one component that's fixed. And rule number two, none of the mates shall be mated to the origin. Okay, so I just turned it off to prevent you from trying to mate to the origin. And the reason why we don't want to mate to the origin is because any mate that goes to the origin is this assembly. If I mate to this assembly, when I drag this into a higher level assembly, those mates that are to the origin will not propagate up. Therefore, we will not create a mate to the origin. If Onshape had front, right, and left planes in the assembly, we would not be allowed to mate to those. And that's one of the reasons why there are no assembly planes in assemblies. Onshape allows you to inherit mates from lower level assemblies. And by mating to assembly features, you break that chain. Therefore, let's turn it all off, and you are not allowed to use any geometry in the assembly to construct these parts. It's a mighty big order, and it's much different than SolidWorks. SolidWorks, they don't care, but it'll damage Onshape. And I'm going to show you some things, and when you see what Onshape is capable of doing, you will never mate to the assembly references. Well, you won't mate to the assembly origin. You won't mate to front, top, and right planes. You just won't do it. You can't do it because there are no planes in Onshape assemblies. Okay, so what we need to do now is I need to mate the wheel. And so it's going to be a revolve. And I am going to click on, yeah, you can do that. We can put, I'm trying to get this thing centered. So let's try to figure out how to do this. So scroll in, zoom in to the center of the wheel. More. I want to pick that cylinder. I want to pick that center dot. I want to pick the dot. You picked it. Okay. Okay, now delete it because we're going to do it again. I want to show you something. So delete that mate connector. All right, now go into that cylinder. And I want you to hold the shift key down on your keyboard.
Okay.
And I want you to move to the far connecting point. Okay, and what I want you to notice that with the shift key down, it will no longer pick up geometry. It knows that the cylinder is in focus. It locks the cylinder in focus and allows you to pick the three possibilities for that. When you're placing these mate connectors, many times you'll use that shift key that locks focus on the cylinder. This is what you're working with. We want to put the mate connector in the center. And you can say, okay, this is going to fail. And let's get creative here. Let's go ahead and double click on the revolve. So we want to go ahead and edit this. And I want to create a mate connector on the bracket. So let's scroll out of the bracket, scroll out so we can see the bracket. And go ahead and pick the edge on the far bracket, yeah. And let's establish a mate connector there. And that's good enough. All right. And let's just go ahead and say, okay. One of the things that we need to do now is to expand revolve to revolution. And I don't like the definition of the bottom mate connector. The bottom mate connector is the mate connector we added to the bracket. So let's double click that and edit it. And I want to change the definition of this mate connector, not on the entity, but between entities. And I need for you to pick the equivalent edge. Nah, that's a cylinder. That's a face. It won't let you pick it. Okay, pick that face then. Okay, say, oh, okay, so now it's being picky. So let's delete edge of bracket mirror. It needs to be a face definition. Grab the wheel, move it, because it's not being defined. It's free to move and you can get it out of the way. Now I need for you to pick the equivalent face on the original bracket. No, not on the wheel. Okay, so first off, zoom in because I need for you to pick the right entity, the correct entity. Stop, don't do anything. Push the shift key down. Move to that center location. Pick it. And so let's go check our references, scroll out, say okay to this thing. All right, well, that's not cool. Let's create a mate connector. So you can create an assembly mate connector, not that one, not that one, over to the left. That, click that. This is just a mate connector. We want to create it in between. And we want to go do that selection on the far bracket, just like we did before. Nope, that's the edge. We need to pick the face. And okay, I have no idea what you picked. So you need to clear everything and let's start over. All right, the face. Hold the shift key down. No. Clear that, clear that. Highlight the face, hold the shift key. No. Clear. You're picking. You can just highlight over. Make. Zoom in on the, okay. There, pick. All right, now we need to say between entities. Rotate it, pick the corresponding face on the other part. No, yep. Oh, you can't create a mate connector between two different bodies. Mate connectors, the middle will only go if we connected those, right? We have two parts and we're trying to create a mate connector between those two parts. This mate connector is, well, let's just say it's original and it needs to be improved. So let's go ahead and cancel this. This methodology just isn't going to work. What I want to do is I want to assemble that wheel to some geometry that doesn't exist. And this is the reason why people struggle with mates inside of Onshape. So let's go ahead and let's create some geometry. You know, the only other way that we can do this is to offset, and I don't want to offset because if I move the brackets, there needs to be a better solution to this. Let's go back to layout. So let's go back to the layout, and I'm going to create a curve that goes on, open up my planes. And I am going to create a curve. So go to create a, okay, I want to create a sketch. I need to figure out where to create the sketch. So I want the sketch to be part of the bracketry. So we want to scroll above, delete part. We want to, okay, I want to create a sketch on top. Oh, I can't do that. Cancel this. It's got to be after mirror. So let's scroll down below mirror. One more. And I want to click on the top plane, create a sketch. And I want to create a line, an axis. So I want to create a point, just drag a point from one, yeah, and then go over to the other. Yeah, okay. Now turn your planes off. Let's add some constraints so we have the proper length. I need to go and click one of the ends of the line. And I need to pick the inside face. Not that face. You need to rotate the part. That point needs to be coincident to the inside face. Hit the I key. No, that face. Hit the I key.
Okay.
Do that to the other side. One of the nice things about Onshape is that you can use three-dimensional geometry when you're creating your constraints. SolidWorks won't do that. Call this sketch 5. Call it wheel location. And say okay. Let's go back to the assembly. We want to insert a sketch, insert sketch. And you need to say, I want my sketches. You need to go over to sketch. Nope, down. You need to change the filter to include sketches. Nope, that, yes. If you want, you can turn off parts because we're looking for sketches. Now, scroll down and look for the wheel location. Say okay. Yeah. Edit group. Double click on group and add the sketch to group. Click on the sketch. You can click it in the window. You can click it. No.
I don't see anything that says sketch.
Okay, wheel location.
Sorry.
That's the sketch. Say okay. This is really terrible. Okay, so double click on Revolute 1. Delete the red one. Now we have geometry where we can assign a mate connector. So go down to that line and pick the midpoint. There you go. Say okay. Spin the wheel. If we move the bracket in the layout, the wheel will stay centered between them. Go ahead and close the Revolute joint, Revolution 1. Go ahead, close down your mate. And I want to ensure something before we move on. Okay, move the wheel again. All right, go create another assembly. Use the plus key down in the bottom left-hand corner. Create assembly and drag it before the top, because this is now the ultra top. Insert, go to the insert command above. You're going to pick from assemblies, top, say okay. All right, hold on. No fixes come. So the assembly is free to move around. I don't want it to move around. So pick one of the brackets and fix it. Pick one of the brackets. You can expand that, you can pick that, and you can say right, fix. All right. Try and move any of the brackets. Try and move the other bracket. How come the other bracket doesn't move?
Is there a relation?
Yeah, let's go over this. There is a relation. Most importantly, try and move the wheel. Okay, it's working. I'm going to go over this, and then I'm going to go over this, and then I'm going to go over this, and then I'm going to go over this, and eventually it'll start to make sense. You'll go, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. But the fact that I have a subassembly top, the wheel's moving, I drag it into a higher level assembly. Right now, that's called assembly 1, and the wheel is still moving. That's revolutionary. Okay. There's something called explode in SolidWorks. So you explode 2 levels deep and the assemblies start freezing up. Okay. You cannot inherit subassembly motion inside of SolidWorks, meaning that if you're going to be doing a design, you have to put all your motion definitions in the top because they will not inherit from below. This is the reason why I would not use SolidWorks. Onshape is far superior at defining and putting together structures. When I define a library part that I'm going to stick, that I'm going to use everywhere, let's say like a cylinder, and the cylinder goes in and out. That library part, the motion is defined. I'll go and I'll grab that assembly out of my library and I'll use it in a design. And when I fasten it all up, the cylinder still moves. I take that mechanism and I put it into another top level assembly. And even though all the motion is defined in the library, it inherits all the way up the chain. It is just totally revolutionary. You're starting to see bits and pieces of it here. I get it. It's not really well understood. First off, it's new. And secondly, it doesn't match SolidWorks. And therefore, if you were an expert inside of SolidWorks, you are not an expert inside of Onshape. And right now, that's a real problem. So people say the word assembly and they think, oh, I know this, but they don't. So anyway, let me show you some debug techniques. If you expand top, the subassembly top, so go ahead and expand, nope, up in the feature tree, no, go back to assembly, click on top and expand it, and then expand the mate features. 2 mate features are inherited from top, and it'll show you what they are. It'll show you that the group came over. So remember, we grouped things in top, and now they're grouped here because the grouping was inherited from top. Also shows that revolve was inherited from top. Why was revolve inherited from top? It's because we did not stick that wheel to the origin. So for fun, and I know this isn't fun, let's create a wheel in top and let's fix it to the origin with the revolve, and it will never spin when it goes to the top level assembly. So let's do that. I want to show you how it breaks down and things to watch out for. This is your first exposure to it. Right now, it's just a fog. There's some basic rules that you just got to understand, learn. This is your first exposure to it. We'll keep going. Let's go back to top. Let's hide this wheel. Oh, no, let's not. I want to get your Control C, Command C, Command V working. Pick the wheel. Command C, that's cat. Command C. Did you do that?
Yep.
Where the cursor is, hit Command V, that's Victor, Command V. Woohoo! That's how I copy multiple wheels, okay? Hide the first instance of wheel. And so we don't get messed up. Hide the sketch called wheel location. Turn your origin on. Okay. And just click anywhere in space to clean up the screen. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put in a revolve. We're going to use the center cylinder of the wheel as one mate connector. And then we're going to position another mate connector using the origin, which is bad. I claim that when we go to assembly 1, because we put a mate to the origin, it will not show up in assembly 1. Watch me, I'll probably be wrong, but anyway, I'm pretty sure I'm not. So let's create a revolve. You need to zoom in and you need to get the center of that cylinder. Get the cylinder highlighted. Yeah, I know, just go around in white space and it'll turn off. Now go directly to the cylinder. They're not fast enough. There it is. There it is. Click that. Okay, so you got that one. It's defined. Now go down and pick. Now you kind of scroll off in the direction, and you'll there. Go back to the origin. Go along the direction that you want. Keep moving your mouse. You can get them to flip. Click now. Say okay. Say okay. Delete the third one. Okay. Yeah, I know that's kind of obnoxious until you're just creating a lot of mates, and it comes in handy that it does that. Rotate the wheel. All right, sounds good. Let's go to, let's create another assembly. Drag assembly 2 before assembly 1. These are both sub-assemblies. They're probably at the same level. Insert top. Assembly. No, go up. There's a tab up at the top of this. Up, not that. Oh, you were just there. The word assembly. Down. That. Here, let's stop just a second. I do this all the time. I'm constantly forgetting that I wanted an assembly and I'm looking in Part Studios. This is something that you just got to get used to, that I'm looking for assemblies. You need to change to the tab assemblies. And for the longest time, I couldn't find my assemblies because I was in the tab. We do not want to bring in assembly 1 because it works. We want to bring in top. Click on top and then say okay. Move the wheel. Yep, okay. Let's diagnose this. Expand top. Go down to the mates. Revolve 2 did not come over properly. Well, let's go and look at the top level assembly. And let's collapse revolve 1, collapse revolve 1, expand revolve 2. Let's go over into assembly 2. Expand revolve 2. It's telling me that it did it. Click on the bottom mate and revolve 2. And it's not quite right. So this will drive you absolutely nuts. And it used to air out. Revolve 2 would be an air. So assembly 2 is just a bad example, is an example of a bad exercise. Revolve 2 says it's there. It used to air out because it would not be created properly. Go ahead, click the screen. It is telling me that revolve 2 is valid. So go ahead and let's unexpand revolve 2. And let's go ahead and fix one of the brackets. One of the things we have not done is we haven't fixed one of the bracketry. So fix that bracket. Okay. So now this is a valid assembly. Assembly 2 is now valid because there has to be a fixed part. Otherwise, the assembly moves what's inside the assembly. Drag the wheel and see if it'll spin. Okay. Go back to assembly 1. And you can hide the second instance of wheel. Spin the wheel. I wish that there was a shiny moment. I wish that, the sun would come up and there would be nice music, celebratory music playing. Go back to assembly 2, make the wheel spin. Okay. Now it's in the middle of the night and it's an eerie feeling. I wish there was better indications as to why this is not working in assembly 2. The reason why assembly 2 does not work is because Revolute 2 was assigned to the coordinate system inside of the top. Let's go ahead and delete assembly 2. Enough about this. Fortunately, most people are designing in part studios. They have not yet explored assemblies. They have not yet experienced this. When you're assembling in Onshape, do not use the origin, hide origin. You can kill the second reference of wheel.
Is it not?
Yeah, you can delete it. You can show it and delete it, or you can just delete it now. You can hit the delete key on the keyboard.
Won't let me. Oops, my bad.
No, you can't delete it there. You have to go back to, we need to go to top. There it is. What happened to Revolve 2?
I was tied to
Wheel. Yeah.
to,
So that dependency, it was good, right? Should have aired out, but they deleted it instead. I'm when I started Onshape, I said I was going to be the keeper of, if I delete a parent, it deletes the child. And guess what? It just did that. In SolidWorks, if you delete a part, it'll delete all the children. And that is a nightmare. It was a good idea when it first started, and it turned into a nightmare because you delete something and half your model goes away. They can't get rid of it. It's so embedded in the code, they can't figure out how to get it out. We come over here to Onshape, and somebody needed to be the mayor of Onshape and say, hey, we're never going to do that. And it just did it. So should we put in a tech support question? And should we complain to Onshape about this? You want to see how to do a support ticket?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, hold on here. They'll love this. Command Z, let's get it back. Highlight wheel on your screen, down. Okay. Because it's gonna look at your screen. Go to the question mark, expand it, and you want to place a bitch. Oh, you have a student account, right? They don't care. Report a bug. This should be a tech support. Okay, so they call it a report a bug. Do not delete dependency. That's the title.
I don't know how you spell dependency.
DENCY. So change, no, it depend. Yeah, that's okay. I can't spell it either. Backspace, one more. Depend, one more. Nope. EN, there it is, there. Y. Dependency in comments. When I delete wheel 2, comma, Revolute 2 is removed. Period. Should Revolute 2 should air out, or should air space or carriage return. Should air out, and period. Share this document with Onshape, add screenshot. We're going to kill it, so it won't be here. And yeah, you can do that. It's going to go away. Go ahead, send this. So you're going to get an email. They're going to acknowledge that they received it. Then you're going to get another email, and they're going to say, what the hell are you talking about? And there was a big discussion at the beginning of Onshape. And the discussion was, when I delete a parent, I do not want any of the children to be deleted. I want them to air out. And you'll probably get some young kid. He has no idea what you're talking about. Nothing's going to happen. But anyway, this should not delete. Actually, I like the idea that it's deleting Revolute too. But you know, we need to make sure. The problem in SolidWorks, you've got dependencies to something apart. You delete that, and you come back to your model, especially when things are in folders. Half the folders are gone, and you're going, when that happened? So the idea is that Pro-E did that, okay? Pro-E killed all the children. And SolidWorks adapted it, but SolidWorks listens to you, and it's become taboo to delete the children. You error the children out, you don't delete them. And in Onshape, the majority of the time, if you delete a parent, the children error. They're not deleted also. Go ahead, delete wheel 2. Do you see? Wheel 2 went away. Wheel 2 had a dependency called revolve 2. Revolve 2 was automatically deleted. This is deemed a bad idea, and you've just registered it. Okay, anyway, turn the wheel back on so we can see it, show wheel. And let's go to, you can go down to assembly 1, right mouse click and say delete that tab. Now we're back to where we're supposed to be, make the wheel spin. Okay. I want to reset the wheel. Right now, double click on one of the brackets, double click on a bracket up in the feature manager tree. And hide the bracket, hide bracket. No, down in the parts. And hide bracket mirror. And hide wheel. All right. So the part that you pick in the assembly doesn't ghost. I want all parts to ghost in the part studio. They're struggling with this, and I'd rather that they just make everything ghost. They're doing too much. One of the things that I find surprising is that if you go back to the top level assembly. The location of that wheel is in the same location because you've been spinning it, we have no idea where that wheel is now. One of the things that I want to do is right mouse click on Revolute 1, right mouse click on Revolute 1, reset. That makes it match perfectly with what we brought in. Go back to layout. And turn on wheel. The location of that wheel is exactly the same as in the assembly. And I want that for now because we're going to bring in the shaft with the lobes and I want them to be the same. And then what we're going to do is we're going to group the shaft and the lobes with the wheel in the assembly. But we need to make sure that the wheel in the assembly matches up to the wheel in our layout. You go back to top, by setting Revolute 1, by resetting it, it means that the angle, it sets it to 0. Go ahead, move it, move the wheel. Okay, now just highlight Revolute 1. And it'll tell you that it's 15 degrees. Right mouse click on Revolute 1, reset, pick on Revolute 1, it's 0. See what reset does? Okay. Let's go try to define a camshaft with lobes. So let's go back to layout. And we need to turn on a picture. We need to shut down bracket.
I'm running out of time. Just to throw that out there.
Okay, well, let's do the camshaft later. And let's go ahead and shut down the folder bracket so that it's nice and clean. Turn on your bracket and bracket mirror. And let's design the cam later. Okay?
Okay.
I'll talk to you later.